Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan, coming up in the next hour. India steps up investment pitch at the World Economic Forum at Davos. Maharashtra secures $173 billion investment on day one. Donald Trump speaks to NATO's Rutte concerning Greenland, says Denmark cannot protect the island. Australia's lower house approves tougher gun control laws in response to Bondi Beach mass shooting, sends to Senate for consideration. Dozens of worshippers abducted in Nigeria church attacks. Church leader says more than 160 missing. And 6th edition of Khelo India Winter Games kicks off in Leh. Olympic sport figure skating major attraction. All right, updates on Iran protests now. Iran's police chief has warned protesters involved in what authorities call riots to surrender within 3 days or face strict legal action, while promising leniency for those misled into joining unrest. At the same time, Iran's leadership pledged to urgently address economic grievances that trigger the demonstrations, even as they vowed harsh punishment for those accused of orchestrating violence. The protests represent one of the most serious challenges to the government in years, with the true scale of the crackdown unclear amid a prolonged internet shutdown. The UN has raised concerns over possible executions, calling them a tool of intimidation. Limited internet access is expected to be gradually restored. And the lower house of Australian Parliament on Tuesday passed laws to enable a national gun buyback and tighten background checks for gun licenses in response to the country's worst mass shooting in decades at a Jewish festival last month. The bill, which was opposed by conservative lawmakers, passed the House of Representatives by a vote of 96 to 45. It will now make its way to the Senate for consideration, where it is expected to pass with the support of the Greens. Other measures passed on Tuesday include stricter firearm import controls and provisions to improve information sharing between intelligence agencies on people trying to obtain gun licenses.
The terrorists who killed 15 people on that horrible day had hate in their hearts and guns in their hands. The tragic events at Bondi demand a comprehensive response from government. As a government, we must do everything we can to counter both the motivation and the method. We must deal with the motivation of hatred and the method, the firearms that the attackers used to devastate so many lives. This bill delivers on the government's commitment to address the methods of that attack.
Now, the new measures would establish the largest national gun buyback scheme since one implemented after a massacre in 1996 in Tasmania's Port Arthur, where a lone gunman killed 35 people. They would also introduce tougher background checks for firearm licenses issued by Australia states by drawing on information held by the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation. The lower house of the Australian Parliament is also expected to pass reforms to hate speech on Tuesday aimed at tackling anti-Semitism. And US President Donald Trump's government has asked countries to pay $1 billion for a permanent spot on his Board of Peace aimed at resolving conflicts. The board was originally conceived to oversee the rebuilding of conflict-torn Gaza. The charter does not appear to limit its role to the occupied Palestinian territory. What exactly will it do, and who has been invited? As a report.
The United Nations Security Council formally adopted my peace plan.
The Board of Peace will be chaired by Trump according to its founding charter, as reported by the news agency AFP. It is an international organization that seeks to promote stability, restore dependable and lawful governance, and secure enduring peace in areas affected or threatened by conflict, reads the preamble of the charter sent to countries invited to participate. Trump will be chairman but also separately serve as inaugural representative of the United States of America. The chairman shall have exclusive authority to create, modify, or dissolve subsidiary entities as necessary or appropriate to fulfill the Board of Peace's mission, the document states. He will pick members of an executive board to be leaders of global stature to serve 2-year terms, subject to removal by the chairman. The chairman can be replaced only in case of voluntary resignation or as a result of incapacity. Member states have to be invited by the US President and will be represented by their head of state or government. The board will convene voting meetings at least annually, and each member state shall have one vote. The White House has said its members will include US President Donald Trump as chair, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Steve Witkoff, Trump's special negotiator, Jared Kushner, Trump's son in law, Tony Blair, former UK Prime Minister, Mark Rowan, billionaire US financier, Ajay Banga, World Bank President, Robert Gabriel, loyal Trump aide on the National Security Council. The list of countries and leaders who say they have been invited include, but are not limited to, Russia's President Vladimir Putin, Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney, Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, Argentina's President Javier Milei, Jordan, Brazil, Paraguay, India, Pakistan, Germany, France, Italy, Hungary, Romania, Uzbekistan, Belarus, Greece, Morocco, Slovenia, Poland. Also, Israel and Hamas signed off on Trump's plan, which says a Palestinian technocratic administration will be overseen by an international board, which will supervise Gaza's governance for a transitional period. Bureau Report, TD India.
All right, still to come on this edition of DD India Newshour. US officials probing Minnesota ICE protests that disrupted church service. Further strengthening India-UAE energy cooperation, Abu Dhabi National Oil Company Gas and HPCL sign a 10-year LNG supply agreement. And Japan tourist arrivals rise to record in December despite China's slump.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. US President Donald Trump and Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara held a key phone call on Monday stressing Kurdish rights within a unified Syria days after a landmark deal integrated Kurdish forces under Damascus control. More in this report by DD India's Antara Sinha.
In a significant diplomatic move, US President Donald Trump held a phone call with Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara on Monday, focusing on protecting Kurdish rights within a unified Syria. The leaders stressed Syria's territorial integrity and joint efforts against Islamic State remnants. This comes after a landmark 14-point agreement between Damascus and the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, brokered in part by the US. As Syrian forces advance, tensions are rising, with protests in Turkey and concerns over fragile ceasefires. The Trump-Shara call underscores strengthening US-Syria ties since Shara's forces ousted Bashar al-Assad in 2024. The January 18th integration deal includes an immediate ceasefire and SDF withdrawal from key areas like Raqqa and Deir al-Zor, handing over oil fields, dams, and border crossings to Syrian control. US President Donald Trump emphasized Kurdish protections, saying the US supports a sovereign Syria free from terrorism. Syrian President Shara echoed this, affirming unity and counter-terrorism cooperation. But the pact has sparked backlash. Turkey, a Shara ally, calls it a historic turning point against Kurdistan Workers' Party threats, advancing their peace process. Yet, Turkey's Kurdish minority, about 20% of the population, is anxious. In Diyarbakir, despite heavy snow, 500 protesters clashed with police, leading to over 20 arrests. In Istanbul, a rally was dispersed, with 10 detained. Post-ceasefire clashes near Raqqa and ISIS prisoner escapes from facilities like Shaddadi prison highlight the fragile truce. Amid these developments, EU High Representative Kaja Kallas urged all military activities in Syria to cease immediately, calling for de-escalation to protect civilians and ensure long-term stability. While the integration aims to reunify Syria, questions linger over Kurdish autonomy and regional dynamics. Antara Sinha for DD India.
And the US Justice Department has said it is investigating protesters who disrupted a Sunday service at a Minnesota church because they believe a pastor there works for immigration and customs enforcement. Justice Department officials accused the protesters of desecrating a house of worship and said they will investigate them for civil rights violations. Anti-ICE protests continue in the state against President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown, and the Pentagon reportedly placed 1,500 soldiers on standby for possible deployment. On Sunday, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi vowed to exercise the full force of federal law against the demonstrators who interrupted the service at the city's church in St. Paul. Later on Monday, Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dhillon said on X that the Justice Department will pursue federal charges in this case. In a statement, Department of Homeland Security said it has made more than 3,000 arrests in the Twin Cities since Operation Metro. DHS also said it does not confirm or deny the identities of its agents, as publicizing their identities puts their lives and the lives of their families at serious risk. Thousands of ICE agents are in Minnesota as part of a surge by the Trump administration after his election pledged for the biggest deportation operation of undocumented migrants in history. Moving on, Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, Gas and Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited have signed a 10-year LNG supply agreement valued between 2.5 and 3 billion US, further strengthening India-UAE energy cooperation. Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, Gas and its subsidiaries have signed a 10-year liquefied natural gas sales and purchase agreement with Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited, valued between 2.5 billion and 3 billion US. Under the agreement, ADNOC Gas will supply 0.5 million tons per annum of LNG to HPCL from its Das Island liquefaction facility, which has a production capacity of up to 6 million tons per annum. The agreement was exchanged by Dr. Sultan bin Ahmed Al Jaber, UAE Minister of Industry and Advanced Technology and Managing Director and Group CEO of ADNOC, and Vikas Kaushal, Chairman and Managing Director of HPCL, during UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan's visit to India, where he held talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. All right, updates from World Economic Forum in Davos now. The Western Indian state of Maharashtra opened WEF 2026 with a record $173 billion in investment on the first day of the annual meeting. State government of Maharashtra on Monday signed 19 MOUs involving investment commitments worth $173 billion and over 15 lakh jobs on the first day of the annual meeting in Davos. These MOUs are across sectors and underscore strong global confidence in Maharashtra's consumer markets, infrastructure readiness and long-term growth fundamentals. Maharashtra commenced its participation at the World Economic Forum's annual meeting by inaugurating the State Pavilion, marking the beginning of a focus week of high-level engagements aimed at advancing Maharashtra's ambition of becoming a $5 trillion economy guided by the vision of Viksit Maharashtra 2047. The Maharashtra Pavilion has been positioned as a platform for structured dialogue and investment realization, reflecting the state's approach to Davos as a forum for enabling sustained capital deployment across industry, consumer markets, hospitality and infrastructure, including core and digital. And the eastern Indian state of Jharkhand marked the opening day of the World Economic Forum annual meeting in Davos with a series of high-level engagements aimed at positioning the state within global economic and policy conversations. Jharkhand Chief Minister, in a social media post, termed the day one in Davos as historic. He said the discussions took place on investments in new age green steel technology in Jharkhand, with Tata Steel, investments in urban mobility and other sectors with the Sweden-India Business Council. Discussions also held with the Women Political Leaders Forum on leadership and participation of women in politics, cooperation in various sectors with WEF representatives, and meaningful discussions on investments in the power and IT sectors with Hitachi and Tech Mahindra were also held on day one of the annual meeting. The northeast Indian state of Assam made its debut at the 56th World Economic Forum in Davos on Monday, positioning itself as India's fastest growing state and a prime destination for green energy, semiconductors and tourism investment. Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma has created history by becoming the first Chief Minister from Assam to attend the World Economic Forum annual meeting in Switzerland. His participation at World Economic Forum Davos 2026, being held from 19th to 23rd January, marks a significant milestone in positioning Assam on the global economic and policy-making stage. Highlighting Assam's strengths, CM Sarma urged global investors to invest in emerging state and emerging economy.
We want to send a message that Assam is now an emerging state, emerging economy. So when you are thinking of investing in India, you can consider Assam as one of the destination. Assam is now officially we are the fastest growing state in the country.
Talking to Indian news agency, Sarma said the growth of Assam and Northeast are interlinked. He said any development in Assam benefits the whole of Northeast.
We do not see Assam in isolation of Northeast, because when something happens in Assam, we are so interconnected that you cannot say that this is for Assam and this is not for Northeast. Like when Tata sets up semiconductor industry, it may be geographically in Assam, but it has to be for all Northeastern states. So Guwahati being the gateway of Northeastern state, the entire talent pool of the region, they comes to Guwahati. So Assam provide that ecosystem or opportunity to the youth of entire Northeast. So if I can bring 1 rupee to Assam, you can also say automatically that 1 rupee goes to Northeast.
All right, to discuss more on this, we are joined by Shubhamoy Bhattacharjee, senior economic journalist. Welcome, sir. Appreciate you giving us your precious time. First of all, Davos opens at a time of economic fragmentation, geopolitical stress and also slowing global growth. Your assessment from the discussion so far, what is the dominant mood inside the room this year, caution or conviction?
Well, Davos has moved considerably away from last year's talk, or rather last year's accent on quite a few issues. For instance, the big thing is that the US President Trump didn't come last year, and this year he's there. Now, when he's there, obviously Davos is being careful to drop issues which are not really something that he would be very comfortable with. So, climate issues and others, which were very big issues last year, have been given a go by. That's, of course, with the world, or rather with these countries being very, very careful about what they do. For India, it's actually a very smart thing what India is doing. Because what we are doing is we are saying that we don't want to get into this national, international issues and with which can go on and on. What is happening is, as you highlighted in your in the various snippets that you took about Maharashtra, Assam, Jharkhand, that India is basically focusing on saying that India is open for business, major business, and our states are answering practical questions from investors about where to invest, how to invest, which sectors to invest. That is an investment dialogue which India is doing, and it's doing typically at the subnational level, which is exactly what is required. Instead of talking about overall global issues and others, which really is neither here nor there. So yeah.
Shumai, also, I mean, like you said, India has walked into Davos 2026 not as a promise but as a growth anchor. From your point of view, what's fundamentally changed in how the world is looking at India this year?
The thing about this world right now is uncertainty. And that uncertainty means that you can't be sure. For instance, if a country says, USA is saying that it wants to take over Greenland, some other country could do something else. There are difficulties in terms of understanding where the geopolitical equations would lie. So that's a very big thing. But within that, what India is doing is that as the fourth largest economy in the world, it's basically focusing on sort of moving on with the economic logic, the economic story. And I think that makes for a tremendously powerful session, which basically we'll be seeing the budget in a few days from now. That countries can keep on playing what they want to do on many of the issues on which they have got tangled. There are lots of discussions about there'll be a board of peace that USA is asking countries to join into. India is sort of taking a very, very neutral stand on all of these, which is exactly what it should be. Instead, for instance, yesterday the UAE president came over to India to meet the Prime Minister and signed a raft of investment negotiation deals. These things don't happen just for the heck of it. They happen because these are needed. So I think that that's basically what is happening, and I think that is where we should be focusing on right now to move on with our economy.
Also, we spoke about Assam, Jharkhand, Maharashtra also announced MOUs worth $173 billion on day one alone at Davos. How important is this state-led push in shaping India's overall investment narrative at global forums like Davos?
Well, one of the important things is, earlier on, Indian states would largely mean the South Indian states. And rightly so. Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Kerala. These were the states which were actually taking the lead. What you see this time is two states, Jharkhand and Assam, which normally you would not call as investment poles till recently, have now become confident enough to look at, to push their economic agenda in front of the global investors. And remember, Davos brings in the top top investors. So to be able to do that means that you are confident that your policies are stable, that you can do things which exactly makes sense for people. Assam, for instance, is playing host to the semiconductor industry. Now that's a very big thing to me, because the world wants to know about that. What is the story from any place about basically what is called the new energies or new technologies, the sunrise technologies, which is basically the nanoparticles, the quantum technology, the renewable energy, the semiconductor. These are the ones which people want to hear about. And for Assam to be able to say that yes, we are playing. I mean, we've got investments going out there. This is what is going to happen. Then I think that makes a very major positive shift, and I think that is what people would want to hear, rather than the endless bickerings over issues which are neither here nor there.
Also, Shubhamoy, Donald Trump, you spoke about him in the beginning. He hasn't even arrived yet, but his shadow is already hanging over Davos. Why does his presence matter so much to global business leaders this year?
Well, what's happening is that USA has sort of cut loose from the fact that it has got certain responsibility. Instead, it is saying that might is right. And in fact, as President Trump has himself said in one of his tweets or in Truth Social, that I am limited only by my own sense of morality. Now, these are almost like, comments like a monarch. This is not that of a leader which we have come to hear of something that we have come to accept in the post Second World War world, where there were checks and balances on your leadership. So in that sort of a world, it is about how well you can transact with the USA. I mean, we were being told that, for instance, that India was slow in terms of sewing up a trade deal with the USA. As the fracas over Greenland shows, that countries which have actually sewn up the trade deal, those trade deals mean nothing. They have those trade deals will be. The tariff rates will be ramped up. Yeah. So where is the certainty? And in that sort of an uncertain situation, it's probably best that India is doing things the way it wants to, in the sense that it is basically pushing for its own economic logic to become the dominant thing. Because otherwise, there's no other way that you can handle Trump's. The way he's going along. Because what is also going to happen is, that just as he is the big man strutting around the stage, you would find very soon that there'll be other countries also picking up the same language. Now, that sort of a thing actually creates an extreme level of uncertainty all around. So it's not just what he's doing, but the manner in which he's doing is very significant for the world, and that's something that to be eminently cautious about.
Yes, and Wednesday, Shubhamoy, will be very crucial. Donald Trump will be there in Switzerland, Davos. And coming back to India, several events have been lined up today. Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav also all set to inaugurate India Pavilion. But if you had to sum up day one of Davos in one line, what does it tell us? Too early to say, but what does it tell us about where the global economy is headed?
Well, frankly, as of now, there's no direction. It's like wait and watch. Okay. That is the mood out from what I understand from there. It's basically a sense of mood of wait and watch. And I suppose that's what will happen till, as you said, Wednesday, when he delivers a speech. And that's because that's the reason why many of the CEOs are coming along, to be able to get a track shot with him. So therefore, that's it. The first 2 days will be, the overriding theme will be, what does he say? Nothing much significant gets done at a national level till he makes his position clear on several issues. Greenland is obviously one of those, but so many other things that he has already put up on his as issues that he wants to take on at this year, including his book of peace and so many other things.
Yeah, absolutely. Next few days will be very crucial. We'll leave it at that. Thank you for your insights, Shubhamoy Bhattacharjee.
Thank you.
Moving on, Union Minister Prahlad Joshi, speaking at a session in Davos, spoke of India's resolve to be developed by 2047. Take a listen.
This space carries the ambition of our people, the resolve of our leadership, that is to make India Vikasit Bharat by 2047, and the belief of India time is not coming, India's time is now.
On to business updates now. India's Information Technology Minister Ashwini Vaishnav, in a social media post on X, highlighted the rapid strides made by India in the domain of electronics with regards to exports. The X post further said Bharat achieves a record electronics exports of $47 billion in calendar year 2025. More importantly, of the total, about $30 billion of exports were from PLI-driven smartphone exports. The minister also noted that India's electronics exports have grown 11 times since 2014-15. Electronics is now India's third largest export item, providing 25 lakh new jobs with strong women participation, opportunities for MSMEs, long-term skilling of the youth. And the International Monetary Fund raised its forecast for India's economic growth in fiscal 2026 by 0.7 percentage points to 7.3%, citing strong momentum. The upgrade follows a revision earlier this month by India's National Statistics Office, which raised its estimate for growth to 7.4% in the year ending March 31st, above the government's initial projection of 6.3% to 6.8%. In its World Economic Outlook report released on Monday, the IMF said the upward revision for fiscal 2026 reflected better than expected outturn in the third quarter of the year and strong momentum in the fourth quarter. The fund had previously estimated growth for fiscal 2026 at 6.6% in Article 4th Staff Report. The IMF further said that global growth is expected to remain steady, with momentum in high-tech sectors set to slow but still partly offsetting the weakness in other sectors. And global leaders from both politics and business are meeting once again at Davos, Switzerland for the annual World Economic Forum. At the same time, the Anti-Poverty and Development Organization, Oxfam, is out with their annual report on wealth inequality. Lars Holter is with DW and joins me from Berlin. Hi Lars, good to have you. What's in the report?
Thanks for having me. Well, it's not entirely surprising, but indeed wealth inequality is still on the rise, meaning not only is it a huge problem, but the gap between the rich and the poor is indeed growing once again, as it has been every single year going back decades. And the numbers are truly shocking. Oxfam says that the world's roughly 3,000 billionaires currently hold a combined fortune of $18.3 trillion. That's up more than 80% over the past 5 years. And looking at last year's growth rate alone, billionaire wealth grew by about 16%. And not only is that a lot more than average people's wealth growth, but it is also 3 times faster than the average rate of growth in previous years. So the rich are not only getting richer, but they are indeed getting richer faster. Meanwhile, according to Oxfam, nearly half of the global population continues to live in poverty. The most shocking line in the report, the world's 12 richest individuals now own more wealth than the poorest half of the global population, or more than 4 billion people.
Also, Lars, who are those at the very top of the list, the very richest?
Well, most of them are household names. Most of them are from the US. At the very top is Elon Musk, Tesla CEO, and worth almost $350 billion. And a prime example for how things have been getting out of control. Musk, you might remember, was awarded a $139 billion pay package late last year. And that's not in that number he's currently in the books with. That would be additional. And Musk is also a prime example for how money buys influence. In his case, we just have to think back to last year when Musk took over large parts of the US government, slashing costs in different departments, including social services and health programs, with no real mandate at all other than his close relations and financial donations to US President Trump. But moving on down the list, the very richest also include the Silicon Valley bosses, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, Larry Ellison is there, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, each of them worth way north of $100 billion.
All right, Lars, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for getting us the updates on that story. Moving on, Vietnam's top leader Tu Lam attends the Communist Party's Congress in Hanoi. The twice-a-decade gathering brings together around 1,600 party delegates who will finalize the country's leadership lineup and set key national policies for the next 5 years during a series of closed-door meetings. The Congress comes at a critical moment for Vietnam's one-party state as Tu Lam seeks to consolidate authority after just 17 months as General Secretary. He has overseen an aggressive reform drive marked by a sweeping anti-corruption campaign, major bureaucratic restructuring and renewed focus on infrastructure investment. Addressing delegates, Lam pledged to continue the fight against corruption, emphasizing the importance of the private sector while vowing to tackle wastefulness and wrongdoing. Analysts say decisions taken during the week-long conclave will determine whether Vietnam's traditionally collective leadership model shift towards a more centralized structure, potentially giving Lam the strongest mandate seen in decades. Now, Japanese Tourism Minister Yasushi Kaneko said on Tuesday that tourism arrivals to Japan hit record highs in December and for the whole of 2025, despite a sharp drop in visitors from China. Kaneko said tourist numbers from China plunged 45% in December to around 330,000 people, accounting for less than 10% of 3.6 million visitors that month. This followed a warning from Beijing in November urging Chinese citizens not to travel to Japan amid political tensions over Taiwan. Despite this, Japan welcomed a record 42.7 million tourists in 2025, surpassing 40 million for the first time. Total spending by inbound visitors also reached an all-time high of 9.5 trillion yen, or about $60 billion, underlining the resilience of Japan's tourism sector. All right, shifting focus now. The Bharatiya Janata Party has formally announced today that Nitin Nabin has taken charge as BJP's national president at the party headquarters in New Delhi. The charge-taking ceremony was attended by Prime Minister Narendra Modi along with senior party leaders, chief ministers and key office bearers, marking an important organizational transition for the party. During the event, the Prime Minister congratulated BJP, the party cadre and expressed confidence in the new leadership. PM Modi also affirmed that under Nitin Nabin's leadership, the BJP will continue to expand its organizational strength, achieve new milestones in the times ahead and further deepen its connect with the youth of the nation. Nitin Nabin has been elected unopposed, succeeding outgoing BJP President JP Nadda, and is expected to focus on strengthening the party's grassroots network and organizational roadmap going forward.
आने वाले 25 वर्ष बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। ये वो कालखंड है जब विकसित भारत का निर्माण होना है और होना तय है। इस महत्वपूर्ण कालखंड की शुरुआत में हमारे माननीय नितिन नबीन जी बीजेपी की विरासत को आगे बढ़ाएंगे। मैं आजकल के युवाओं की भाषा में कहूं तो नितिन जी खुद भी एक प्रकार से मिलेनियल है। वो उस जनरेशन से हैं जिसने भारत में बड़े आर्थिक, सामाजिक और टेक्नोलॉजिकल परिवर्तन होते देखे हैं।
In a rare move, India's stock markets will trade live on Sunday, February 1st, 2026, coinciding with the presentation of the Union Budget 2026-27 by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman at 11 a.m. NSE and BSE declared it a special trading day to enable real-time price discovery.
Despite it being a Sunday, both the NSE and BSE will remain open for live trading on February 1st this year. The reason, the Union Budget for financial year 2026-27 will be presented in Parliament by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman at 11 a.m. on that day. In circulars to investors, the NSE and the BSE said they will conduct a live trading session on February 1st as per standard market timings, declaring it a special trading day. As per the exchanges, the pre-open session will begin at 9 a.m., followed by normal trading from 9:15 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Speaking on January 15th, when the BMC elections were underway, the head of the NSE explained how stock markets function.
We have to work as per the requirement of the society. Like today, we have kept holiday because of the BMC elections. And on a Sunday, when budget is there, where everyone wants to participate in the market, we have to keep it open.
Market participants have welcomed the decision to keep markets open on budget day, saying it will allow real-time price discovery while preventing sharp volatility, which is typically witnessed after a major event such as the presentation of the Union Budget. The Union Budget is closely tracked by investors as announcements related to taxation, fiscal health, capital expenditure and sector-specific incentives often trigger sharp movements in equities. The Union Budget is being presented on a Sunday after a gap of 27 years.
On 28th February 1999, I remember the budget was presented on Sunday by the then Finance Minister Yashwant Sinha. It is now after 27 years that the budget on 1st February will be presented on a Sunday. And because the budget would be presented on Sunday, so how could the stock markets decouple themselves from such a landmark day or such a landmark announcement? So the stock markets are going to be open on 1st of February, that is Sunday, which is a usual holiday for stock markets. So all the traders, investors, analysts, they can probably consider Sunday 1st of February as a working day. Well, the stock markets will remain open.
Historically, the union budget was presented on the last working day of February. However, in 2017, the government advanced the presentation to February 1st to ensure proposals are implemented by the start of the new financial year in April. Last year as well, when February 1st fell on a Saturday, markets were kept open.
And the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change, Government of India has issued a notification declaring the biodiversity-rich area ranging from 0 to 1 kilometer around the Kumbhalgarh Wildlife Sanctuary located in the Aravalli mountain range as an eco-sensitive zone. The sanctuary, rich in flora and fauna, hosts the leopard, striped hyena, jungle cat, Indian pangolin, blue bull and chinkara. It is also home to bird species such as painted francolin. The declaration of ASZ will not just help the rich biodiversity thrive, but also help indigenous communities in the area live freely with eco-friendly and community-focused initiatives such as organic farming, agroforestry. There will also be imparted skill development for a sustainable future. The initiative is inspired by Prime Minister Modi's vision for community-driven conservation of India's diverse and rich ecology. All right, sports updates now. We'll start with Khelo India Winter Games. The 6th edition of these games kicked off in Leh city of Ladakh as Lieutenant Governor Kavinder Gupta inaugurated the event. During the inaugural ceremony, local cultural troupes performed, showcasing the diverse culture and heritage of Ladakh. The games will be held from 20th to 26th January, featuring a range of winter sports and bringing together athletes from various states and union territories. Figure skating, an Olympic sport, has been introduced from this edition in addition to the existing speed skating and short track skating. The Games marks another important milestone in India's growing winter sport journey.
लद्दाख शीघ्र ही इंडिया में विंटर स्पोर्ट्स हब के रूप में उभरेगा। मैं सभी एथलीट्स को उनके बेस्ट परफॉर्मेंस के लिए शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। गर्व और उत्साह के साथ मैं इस छठे खेलो इंडिया विंटर गेम्स के उद्घाटन की घोषणा करता हूं।
All right, we'll go across to Leh now. DD India's Abhishek Prasad joins us for more. He's covering this event. Hi Abhishek, the 6th edition of the Khelo India Winter Games 2026 officially commenced today in Leh. But tell us, the major attraction, figure skating is the major attraction, new attraction this year. Tell us how's the atmosphere there and also key highlights so far.
Absolutely, Abhishek. The atmosphere you can see is truly electrifying. Behind me is the India Stadium, where currently the match between the Indian Army and Himachal Pradesh is currently going on. And moments ago, the opening ceremony was commenced, which was attended by chief guest, the Lieutenant Governor of Union Territory of Ladakh, Kavinder Gupta ji. And their figure skating has been the new introduction in this edition of the winter sports, which is giving a huge preparation. From the preparation point of view, it is a huge addition to this edition of the winter games, and especially Ladakh. This is the third time that the Union Territory of Ladakh is hosting a part of the Khelo India Winter Games. Earlier only Jammu and Kashmir used to host the winter games, but this time around the participation has also increased. Over 1,000 participants, including the coaching staff and including the athletes, are participating in this edition. And like I said, that figure skating will give new dimension to India's preparation for future Olympics games. And number of athletes are participating here from different union territories and states, including the teams from Indian Army and ITBP. So all in all, it's challenging for athletes also because the temperature here is close to minus 10 degrees Celsius, and because Leh Ladakh is situated at a high altitude, the oxygen level is also very low. So it is huge challenging conditions for athletes, but overall it's a huge boost for India's preparation for future winter sports events.
Absolutely, Abhishek. And when ITBP they play Union Territory of Ladakh in ice hockey, the atmosphere will be electrifying. But again, you spoke about the challenges. Competing at Leh is not easy at all. Like you also mentioned, 11,500 feet above sea level. What are the different challenges that the athletes face in these kind of competitions, and how important is it to acclimatize first? And yes, it becomes all the more difficult for the teams who come from down south or maybe from the urban areas, Delhi, Mumbai. All right, there seems to be a technical issue, but yes, Abhishek Prasad covering Khelo India Winter Games at Ladakh, he was highlighting about the different challenges athletes face when they compete in these competitions, especially 11,500 feet above sea level in Leh. Moving on, the Bangladesh Cricket Board dismissed media reports claiming that the International Cricket Council had set a January 21st deadline for Bangladesh to decide on its participation in 2026 T20 World Cup. BCB Director and Media Committee Chairman Amjad Hussain said no such timeline was communicated during recent discussions with the ICC, either in a virtual meeting last week or in an in-person meeting held in Dhaka on Saturday. The BCB and the ICC have held 2 rounds of talks since Bangladesh indicated it was unwilling to travel to India for the tournament, while the ICC has insisted that the existing schedule will not be changed. The BCB has remained firm in its position. Media reports have suggested that if Bangladesh ultimately pull out of the tournament, Scotland could replace them based on rankings. All right, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.